This is the Celiac Project, two guys talking gluten-free. Just wanted to give a little disclaimer. We are not medical experts, doctors, dietitians,
Nurses.
bone experts, surgeons.
We're only experts at being celiac patients.
So enjoy the show. And if you're going to do any changes to your diet or need real medical advice, please go to the medical professionals.
That's what they're there for.
Today's episode of the Celiac Project podcast is sponsored by Taste Republic, who believes everyone deserves to eat good, fresh pasta, no matter their dietary restrictions. All of Taste Republic's pastas are certified gluten-free and beloved for not sacrificing taste or texture. With fan favorites such as 4-cheese tortelloni and cauliflower linguine, Taste Republic has a wide range of pastas to choose from. Find Taste Republic at retailers such as Whole Foods Market, Publix, Sprouts, Meijer, H-E-B, or online at tasterepublic.com. The Celiac Project podcast is proud to be partnered with Bull & Company MediaWorks, specialists in website design and digital marketing with over 20 years of experience. Go to bullcm.com to find out about all of their services. You found the Celiac Project podcast, two guys talking gluten-free. I'm Mike.
And I'm Cam.
What are we talking about on today's podcast, Cam?
The continuation of the Great Alaskan Adventure.
Yeah, this is part 2 of my amazing Celiac Cruise Alaskan adventure. Let's get to the show.
Sounds good.
Hey, Cam, so good to see you today.
So good to see you too.
Yeah, if you remember our last show, and if you didn't listen to our last podcast, you should probably hit pause on this one and go back to our last episode. It was part 1 of my incredible Celiac Cruise Alaskan adventure. Cam, before we get into part 2, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the wonderful Holidaily beer that obviously they have on the Celiac Cruise. And they did like a expo at the very beginning, gave out a couple things, and the Holidaily on a Celiac Cruise, it for some reason tastes even better, if that's even possible. So shout out to Karen and our friends at Holidaily. But I will just jump back in because there's so much left to tell you about. We left off and we had just pulled into Skagway. So Juneau was the first port, Skagway the second. Skagway is such a fun, old-timey, it feels like when you hear about the Old West or prospectors or whatever, this is the kind of town you envision. And it still has this cute, like, Main Street and downtown area. And we started with a light breakfast. And a standout, another one of my sort of childhood favorites, they had a lovely corned beef hash that I had most of the time for breakfast. Do you like corned beef hash?
Yeah. For breakfast, that's a good one. But I think if I was going to pick anything, like skillets, but that's pretty close. So
okay, yeah. And Jessica discovered it too, because we both like doing skillets like you're talking about. I like the eggs over, the runny eggs on top of the corned beef hash or the skillet.
Exactly.
We all like that. So that's nice.
I go poached.
Poached, that's nice too. Yeah. Poached eggs, sometimes it's harder to get that if you're out.
Yeah.
Sometimes a special order. Poached is lovely. Yes, love it. So our big excursion, our big plan for Skagway is the White Pass Railroad. It's the Yukon White Pass Railroad. And in part 1, we talked about the whale watching being the most magical thing. And that is, and I have to say, I enjoy the railroad. It's not a competition, but this railroad is a narrow gauge railroad that goes up into the mountains. And I mean, the views, Cam, like words fail it. It's so spectacular. The wilderness is just beautiful. Have you ever been on a railroad in the mountains before? They have some in Denver, I think.
No, I haven't been on many trains at all, actually. So yeah, so the L is the main one.
My father was a nautical guy. He had been in the Navy, and so he loved all boats, but he also loved airplanes and trains. So as a kid, I got an appreciation for those. So we had done this when we went on the cruise, as I said, with the family 22 years ago, and we did even more trains on that trip. But this particular train, the White Pass Railway, was so much better than, not so much, but better than I remembered. And again, I think because we got the time of year where there was still a lot of the like snow and ice in the top of the mountains. But this thing, I won't give you a whole like history of it, but it was built in the time of the gold rush in the late 1800s when someone found some gold, and it was a depressed time for the economy, and some enterprising businessmen got together and they built this railroad, and it was like a cooperative thing with Canada, and it's just spectacular. And they closed it down, I think, for mining purposes. I'm not going to get the time right, but in the late 1900s, and then shortly after that reopened it for tourism. And like I said, we did it the first time. It's really cool, Cam. My favorite thing is once you get out of the city limits, it's an old time train and they open up between train cars. So I was just like taking video and pictures and looking out, and we had our binoculars and there were waterfalls, and we didn't see any bears particular because they do jump out from time to time. I think the bears don't necessarily like the noise of the railroads, but we saw bald eagles all over the place. In Juneau, we saw a bunch in every port, just these majestic eagles. It was just so amazing. And the girls agreed. It was another thing that made everybody's like top 10 of experiences of their lives. So just magical. We took, I think it was like a 2-hour, 45-minute round trip. You go up and down, and then we explored the town, which is really cute. Like I said, getting right to the dinner that night. Have we talked about carpaccio?
Yes, we definitely have talked about it, but now you got to remind me what it is.
So it's a very thinly sliced meat. Usually, I think the most common one is beef. And actually on this cruise, we had many different kinds of carpaccio. It's served ice cold. So it's like super duper thin, like paper thin, like you can almost see through it. So they make beef carpaccio, and there's some other kinds of carpaccio. And I think they do a little olive oil, Italian seasonings. Beautiful. It's like one of those things that I love. And the night before we had tuna carpaccio. Big fan of that as well. And the salads, I want to say, because I'm a big Caesar salad guy, and we don't always get the Caesar salad. And sometimes when we get it, doesn't always have croutons because they have to be gluten-free. So most nights had a really lovely Caesar.
Did yours have croutons?
Yeah, we got croutons. It's funny because Connie said we used to put on the description gluten-free croutons, but people got all freaked out because of course they're gluten-free croutons. It's the Celiac Cruise because all the bread they have is gluten-free. So it just said croutons, and we all accepted that they were made from the bread they had there.
That's so funny.
Isn't that funny? And I get it too, because then if you don't, you have to either label all the bread gluten-free or none of it. And so just label it bread. We know it's gluten-free. So the showstopper, there was a royal chocolate cake, and that was one of the standout desserts that I ate. That was that night. And of course, like I mentioned in part one, there's always a night snack, and this was Mexican night. And a big shout out to the whole staff. Amit was the name of the manager, just a lovely guy. And he had the pastry chef. It was like churro night, right? And everybody was excited. The churros were amazing. When he found out that Jessica was dairy-free and soy-free, the chef like worked like on his own time to make some dairy-free version of the churros for Jessica.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, because getting into the next day was her 18th birthday. So it was really special. These guys, the whole staff there was just lovely people, lovely to talk to. They're from all different countries and just the most lovely people you'll ever meet. And just can't say enough about how well we were taken care of. But that was fun. We woke up day 5 of the cruise in a place called Icy Strait Point. So Hoonah is the name of the port.
How's that spelled?
Hoonah, I think. Hoonah.
Okay.
Yeah, Hoonah, I think that's right. And so it's really remote. So there was a place where they canned salmon there many years, and there was like this cannery there. There's like a story. There's like a museum on the island. It burned down. These women were like operating some machinery, and like the thing backfired, and the whole place kind of burned down. And so
I feel like I've heard this story somewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's only been in recent years, in the last 10 years or so, that they made it a cruise stop. So it was like put back into commission for the cruises, which has made it really unspoiled. There's a couple of like gondolas that can take you up into the mountains. There's one that just rides you across, that's free. And then there's one you can pay and you go to the top. And you can actually, we debated this for a long time. There's actually a zip line that's very, very expensive. And it's for years, it was the highest one in the world. And now someone beat it by a foot or something. But you go up to over 60 miles an hour. And ultimately, we were going to do the zip line.
That's intense.
It's very intense. It was Jessica's birthday and we went back and forth. And I think the decision was that you didn't need your first zip line to be the world's highest. And I don't think my wife and other daughter, I don't think were up for it. I would have done it, but we waited till the day of because the weather was supposed to be terrible the whole trip. But as I said in part one, we just got the best weather. And I think,
worked out.
yeah, and I think after our last 2 days of doing these magical excursions, we were happy just exploring. That's another tip. I hope that I got enough tips into part one. A tip that when you're going to Alaska and it's overwhelming, there are all these different excursions, Cam, you can actually take some time to just explore places. There's places to hike. Everything doesn't have to be a real planned excursion with guides and this and that. We enjoyed that we didn't have an excursion that day and just explored. As I said, my wife has had some foot problems. Jessica and I took a walk on our own. Melanie, my younger daughter, and my wife just wanted to be back on the ship because here's a fun thing that happened. I'm brushing my teeth on the balcony, which sounds strange. I have an electric toothbrush. So I go out and we were in the port and I see a humpback like right out off the balcony. And I'm like, what could get better than this? It's just incredible. Like everywhere you look, it's just spectacular views and you see this nature and it's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds pretty magical.
Yeah, and as I said, we got really lucky with all the weather. It was Jessica's birthday. It was really cute. At dinner that night, the wait staff sang her happy birthday, and each person came over and like gave her like these personal wishes for her in her life. It was just really touching, like really heartfelt and really lovely, like I say, wonderful people. And I skipped right over that the standout for lunch was there were flounder fritters at lunch. So how can you do better than flounder fritters, right?
No, you cannot eat flounder fritters.
I will say this, I did not eat lightly on this, and I had my fill of lovely fried foods, which we don't always get as celiacs, but
Totally.
yeah.
I was going to ask, so I know that you had mentioned the churros they made for Jess, but did they end up making her anything special for her birthday?
Yeah, so there was a very nice cake, and the thing was they did a really good job of making dairy-free versions of cake that tasted really good. The thing about Jessica, like we loved it, we ate the cake. Jessica's not a cakey
she's not a sweet
person.
Yeah.
She likes a snickerdoodle cookie or a donut. She likes really dry, not overly creamy.
Moist.
Yeah. So, but she had her fill. I think she had an Udi's cookie. You know, they had the prepackaged Udi's snickerdoodles were always like a standby for her. So that was good. There were lots of choices. And anyways, so that night there was chicken korma and Jamaican jerk chicken for dinner. And it had the Jamaican had the fried plantains were like my wife loves fried plantains and they were as good as you've ever had fried plantains.
So were they the sweet kind or the
where they're soft, like they weren't it went really nicely with the jerk
not like
chicken.
a toastone.
Yeah, they were amazing. And this green lentil soup that night, the girls loved the soup so much that they want my wife also to modify hers because my wife makes a lot of lentil soup. She makes like a green lentil, a red lentil. And this was one of the best lentil soups that any of us had ever had. Thought, Cam, that I was going to get to karaoke with my daughter on her birthday, but she kind of chickened out. And then she found out they didn't have it that night. I was ready to do Born to Run with her, or we were going to do some sappy yacht rock song. And I was like, we got to do Bruce because we share Bruce.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we did. This is kind of funny and cheesy at the same time. They do a cruise version of The Price is Right.
Yeah.
That you can pay and you play along on your phone and they actually call people up. And it was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. It was the funny thing. My wife and I decided to do it and found out later the girls found their cruise, like there are these teen clubs. And it's funny because 4 years ago when we went on the Caribbean Celiac Cruise, our daughter Melanie was only 10 and she was pretty clingy to us. And this time we were like, Melanie, where are you? She's like, I'm with my friends, leave me alone. And we got a lot of family time, but it's just funny. It was nice to see Melanie like socializing and making friends on the cruise. But
that's great.
Yeah, The Price is Right was fun enough that like I think I invested $25 and Jessica played as well. And we could have done it without even paying the money.
Sure.
It was fun enough. You kind of felt like you were part of the Price is Right.
Yeah.
Our cruise director, Brian, who was a fun guy, I talked to him a little bit. He's actually from, I think, the Wheeling area. He had announced at one point, you'll love him. He missed Portillo's and all the Chicago stuff. When Chicago came up, he announces all the shows, and we saw all these fun cruise type acts, comedy and singers and all of that. But Brian was a nice guy. And that night, the late night snack was donuts, and they were just unbelievable, these cinnamon donuts. They came hot and they were great. And they also had savory stuff at night. And there was like a Greek chicken wrap that was also a standout. So I wanted to mention that.
Sounds like my favorite thing that you've been sharing is the late night snack thing. I started thinking about it. I was like, how would I go about, you almost have to plan like Disney World. You know how you said you had to plan your route? You have to be like, okay, I'm going to try all these different things, but I can't have more than 2 baby portions of anything because otherwise then I'll get too full and then I can't try other things.
Oh, Cam, you read my mind. I mean, we figured that out like on day 2. Yeah, Ellen and I were talking about how there was so much good food you had to like pace yourself. And a lot of dinners we would just skip dessert or like share like one piece of something because we knew in a couple hours. And yeah, they did a really good job with that. In fact, it's funny you say that because day 6, we were at sea. So Icy Strait was our last official port before getting to Vancouver. And I just had a light breakfast at sea on day 6. And then here's another tip. At first, we were kind of on the wait list and didn't find out we were getting on the cruise till a little bit later than most people. So we didn't have a lot of choice with where our cabin was. We ended up being in the aft, the back of the ship. And at first I was like, this isn't the best. I don't know how I feel about this. But for the glacier viewing, everything was great. Another thing that I'll say about being in the far back of the ship, there's no heavy traffic of people running at all hours by your cabin. So it was really, really quiet, which I loved that. And yet another thing that I loved about it was I wasn't eating as light as I would eat at home, but I would get like
a walk-in.
Yeah, I would get like 2,500 steps just between my breakfast, and I took stairs every chance that I could. So my tip is to research if you're going to be on a celiac cruise or another kind of cruise or anything, research like where the cabin is based on where you're going to eat. If it's important to be close to the dining, try to do that. For me, it couldn't have worked better, but you can do that. Oh, a really nice thing on day 6, we did this coffee and conversation with the Celiac Cruise group, just a really, really lovely group. And I didn't realize till day 6, I looked across and I saw Stephanie, who's part of our TCP Inner Circle, and we were sitting across from each other, whose daughter is Dana. They're huge parts of our TCP Inner Circle, part of our TCP. And Packer fans like you, because I saw and I was like, I know that's Stephanie. And I looked and she had like a Packers bag next to her. And I go, and now I know it's Stephanie. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I had known earlier. Like she said, yeah, she thought we were on the Celiac Cruise is doing 3 Alaskan cruises in a row. And she thought we were on the next one. So it was really great to see them. So huge
That's
shout.
Awesome. I'm so happy that you guys got to,
Yeah, we got to talk a little. Huge shout out to Stephanie and Dana. I told Dana I'm still thinking about, she talked about the chocolate waffle brownie thing that we need to make because I think about that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Really wonderful to see them. And yeah, and that the coffee and conversation thing was so nice. It's something I wish you could have been there for the whole thing, obviously, but people were all sharing their kind of celiac stories, which is something you and I get into a lot on the podcast, and just really emotional things that people shared. And I wish I had my camera right there and we could start the next Celiac Project documentary, because you just realize everybody has a unique story and we love to share them all. But that was really wonderful. I felt really connected. I only wish it had been earlier in the cruise, because then I got to know some of the people in a more intimate way. And a lot of people, there were fans of the podcast, a lot of more people than I would have liked, hadn't yet heard the podcast. So if I met you on the cruise and now you're a listener, thank you. And it was so nice to meet all of you. at lunch something that I've never had before. It was Parmesan crusted turkey breast.
Oh,
It was new, but hey, delightful. It was almost like a schnitzel, but with turkey breast. They're getting creative there. I love that. And dinner that night was lobster, which I'm not a super lobster guy, but it was like a lobster tail. And I go, I got to get the lobster, right?
yeah.
And it was beautiful. And the French onion soup again. What could be wrong
A
with that?
classic now.
Yes. And then Amit, the manager at the restaurant who'd been phenomenal, did a soy and dairy-free cake for Jessica. That was lovely. You know, another thing that's nice about the Celiac Cruise, they vet every beverage. The only beverages you really can't drink when you're on a Celiac Cruise is basically the beer that's in cans. Of course, the exception is the wonderful Holiday beer. And now it's really cool because they have a Celiac Cruise beer that they make that's only served on the Celiac Cruise. But so we had a meetup that night at a place called the Pesky Parrot, and I had the Mai Tai of your life, which as I'm getting older, these sweeter, I like the idea of those tropical drinks, but I'm really better with, you and I have talked about this, I like the really smoky
Yeah,
mezcal type margaritas and that kind of thing.
I had one last night.
Nice. Yeah, the drinks were okay, but the conversation was really nice. So that was the final day of our cruise. Was the next day. It was day 7. As I said, we were done with the ports of call except for Vancouver, and it was sad to be at the end of the cruise. I did get into a pickleball tournament with Jessica. I'm proud of how we played. We did lose. It was a random draw. We got a really...
Yeah, you got a good team to start.
Played against a good father and son. And it was just fun playing with her. I really didn't care. And we got more time to enjoy. It would have been nice to go on, but I was ready to go out and explore the cruise because we had limited time. That afternoon, I got to have a nice drink with a real huge fan of the documentary and podcast. So a shout out to Christine. We got to know each other a little bit, have a drink together. The last dinner was amazing. Chicken cinnamon, I think, and there was lamb and snapper was great, but I had to eat light so I could try this place, Sorrento's. I got to the last day, Cam, and because none of the ladies in my group do dairy, nobody was like excited for pizza. So I had a very light dinner. Like I ate lightly. As you pointed out, I had to pace myself. And then I was able to try the pizza, which was very nice. And then sadly, we were done with the cruise. The next morning, they kind of boot you out quickly.
Dang.
Yeah. Cam, I want to take a minute to talk about our sponsor, Taste Republic. I just can't stop thinking about the lasagna that my wife makes with Taste Republic's lasagna sheets. They're fresh, they take no prep. Each time she makes it, she seems to keep setting the bar higher and higher. Sometimes she makes a gluten-free and dairy-free version, which I don't miss the gluten or the dairy. The taste was just off the charts. And she didn't have to pre-cook any of the lasagna sheets. She just stacked it all up with the layers in the oven. We'll have to have you over. It was nothing short of amazing.
Well, thank you. It definitely sounds like I need an invite. And Taste Republic, I know that they've got shortcut, long cut, filled, and fresh frozen pasta, the 4-cheese tortellini, and the fettuccine, which are my favorite. Seriously, just add sauce, and it's so easy to cook because you can just get it from the freezer section. You heat it up in a skillet, no boiling water needed. You just add sauce, and you have a whole meal in 5 minutes. Insanely easy.
Yeah, it's really great. The whole thing about the convenience, Cam, I actually did that the other night the same way that you're describing. Just used simple olive oil and some Parmesan cheese on top, and I had dinner in 5 minutes. Every time we pull out Taste Republic, it's like a fine dining experience at home. You can get Taste Republic at great retailers, including Whole Foods Market, Meijer, Publix, Sprouts, and more. Visit tasterepublic.com, use their store locator, and download a coupon for your next visit. Now let's get back to the show.
Sounds good.
So we arrived in Vancouver, and it was really just dramatic. You go out that night, we're coming in, and everybody's got their cameras out, and you go under bridges. Have you been to Vancouver ever?
I have not. The only part of Canada that I've been to is Windsor.
Okay. And I've not been to Windsor, but I've been all over Canada. And Vancouver it's funny because this is where I teased this in part 1. Do your research. And we were so busy that I didn't realize that the FIFA World Cup was happening
Yeah.
in Vancouver, because it was hard to find any place under $500 a night to stay.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we just barely got under that, but we stayed out by the airport, which was hugely beneficial. So my tip is do your research when you can. And if you see, like, it's really weird, Cam, like we had to do things in a certain order and we really wanted to show the girls Vancouver. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until we had everything booked that we go, whoa, why is this so expensive? And just didn't realize that the World Cup was happening. So, because we were told by a gentleman in the hotel that it was like 500,000 plus people, and it was amazing. And so this tip can cut both ways. If I had been a huge like FIFA fan, this would have been like the most incredible thing. It still ended up being great. It did
Sure.
cost us a little extra for the housing. It was worth it. We were already there. Like, my wife was pointing out when I realized, oh, that's why we had to pay so much. I had a little bit of like regret, but it was so great we stayed, Cam. The weather in Vancouver was like absolutely perfect. I'm sad to say it was the time where the East Coast and up through Texas was getting this horrible storm. It hit
Yeah.
it hit
I remember
Chicago
this.
too. We were following along because we had to miss one of Jessica's softball tournaments, and we were getting the chat would pop up and it would say, there's standing water on the field. And Ellen kept looking at me and saying, aren't you glad we're not back there? So anyways, so Vancouver, in the time we have left, I will tell you, Vancouver, this is where I was so nervous because, like I told you, we had so much going on in our lives. I focused most of my planning on excursions, on being prepared for the cruise. And I thought, oh no, we're going to get to Vancouver. And I remember Vancouver from our last time there on the first cruise being like rainy and like being really nice, but like not knowing what to do. And it's just such a great city, a true international, just world-class city. And here's another thing. There were all these expensive tours and everything. And the public transportation is the best public transportation. I'd put it against any city in the United States. I've been on the metro in DC. I've been on the BART in San Francisco. Of course, all the Chicago, New York subways. And it's clean. It's efficient. They show you when things are coming. So we, like, for $13.50 Canadian, or like for the girls, it was like $11 Canadian, which is under $10 US. You could get a day pass and we could get on all the trains, including we got on this sea bus in Vancouver that took you to this cool area. So it's like a little ferry and you could just ride unlimited. And it was so awesome. The first day we spent time, there's a famous park called Stanley Park, just a gorgeous day. And I remember doing this with my parents and sister and nephews 22 years ago, that there was a little train there. And we were like, we are going to go back on this train because it's kind of famous. I made a little movie about our trip and it's like these little family things. And we found out it closed in 2025.
Oh no.
And they tried to reopen it and some kid had an accident and they just said, we're dumping the train. Anyways, but it's okay. But there was this place called Stanley's in the park and it was just such a gorgeous day. And you just brought up the smoky margaritas. So I had a spicy margarita there where they put the jalapenos and they put around the rim has
the tahini?
the tahini on it and salt. And it was just fantastic. And Ellen was tired, so she got a cappuccino. She's not much of a drinker. We were just having the best day exploring the park. This was a true moment. Like, there were so many moments, obviously, that I wish you were there for the whole thing. There are these places, but there are these places that Cam, his head would explode. So we researched, like I said, their knowledge in Vancouver, so many dedicated bakeries. And unfortunately, due to hours and trying to get around, we didn't really get to any of the bakeries. There's this, it was called Machete Ancestral Mexican. And they used blue corn, 100%. Everything was gluten-free, right? So we're at another place, nothing to ask, but they have all these great things. It's all made with the blue masa, right? Homemade. And their signature thing, and I will show this when we put out the show. There'll be a picture somewhere. Their signature dish is the machete, and it's like a long quesadilla. It's like a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet long. It's like a thin, long quesadilla, and I got mine with lime chicken in it. Just incredible.
The machete.
Yes, and the
I love
girls
it.
got an assortment of.
They got baby machetes.
Well, they didn't get machetes because it had a lot of cheese, and again, they don't do dairy.
Yeah, no.
But they got like carne asada tacos,
Yo.
gordita. Yeah, just a lot of different tacos. The place was great. Really nice people there. Then we get to our final day. We get up in Vancouver. We're going to go to this place, Grouse Mountain, that has, my daughters just love the chairlifts and like riding things up mountains, the gondolas and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we kind of got a slow start. And I think we were all, as you could imagine, pretty tired. So we went to a place called Granville Island instead. And it was, I think, a better choice. Again, we took the public transit, which was so easy. And we get there and it's like this little island that has like a market that's inside those really fun markets. And it's got like a kids area. It's hard to explain. It's got all these different like sections and shopping and all this. But we went to a place called the Tap and Barrel for lunch, which was again highly reviewed on the Find Me Gluten-Free app. The woman seating us when we brought up celiac, she said, "I have celiac."
Oh.
Always a nice touch. Always a nice like surprise. Not happy that she has celiac.
Yeah. No,
but
it's a pleasant surprise.
pleasant surprise. And so it was really nice. And my wife and I decided to split a chicken ranchero bowl, a lot of Mexican, when we were in Vancouver. And Jess got a beautiful burger that she gave me a bite of. She always likes to get the fried egg on the burger.
Oh, that's so fun. That's like my sister too.
Yeah, it's always tasty, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good move. And she always gets bacon too. So that's her move. She doesn't get to eat the cheese. So the egg gives it more of a creamy element, right? And all that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a smart
Yes.
idea.
And then they apologized for the delay, our waitress, because she said they were redoing the fryer for us. Like they were completely cleaning out the fryer. They didn't have a dedicated fryer, but they were doing a whole thing so the fries would be safe. And they had tots that were really nice. So that was a really lovely meal.
Very cool.
Yeah. And the market was really cool. And we went to a dedicated place called Bon Macaron, which was a dedicated gluten-free macarons. You have to say macaron. And I found out from talking to people working there that the baker, the owner, has celiac. And those were lovely. And we were like walking by. So at this point, the World Cup is just starting up. And there was literally in this little area that was fenced in, there was a giant screen out. And there were like 3,000 people in this little area just cheering. You could like hear what was going, like people would just all react as a group. So it was
That's very cool.
Pretty cool to see. Yeah. And so that night we were all exhausted and we wanted to bring back some food and places were closing. I think this was like our hangry. This is where you said in part one, it was nice to be off the grid, but we were in these throngs of these crowds that we didn't necessarily want to be in. Thousands and thousands of people. And we were like waiting. Jessica and I were waiting for Ellen and Melanie as they had to go in the store. Long story, our things were all overweight. So we had to get another little piece of luggage to go home. It's all good. But anyways, so we were waiting and Jessica and I were on the local Wi-Fi trying to find a place. So we found a Japanese restaurant, Shizunya. I think it's pronounced Shizunya. And it was brown rice sushi, which I don't think.
I've never had that.
I've never had that. I've had brown rice and I've had sushi, but never brown rice sushi. Very good. The brown rice made it very filling. That night, I had to get up at 4 a.m. for our shuttle to go to the airport. And I think we were all super full.
Oh, you're going to say to go to the bathroom.
No, to get to maybe. No, you know, when I travel early, I have to get up like every hour.
You're anxious and
yes, I'm waiting because I feel like I'm worried that I'm going to fall into deep.
Miss it. Yep. I 1,000% understand. I do that for not even traveling. I totally get it.
Yes. But it was funny because there was have you seen, I think they have these in the States. We took video of it. I promised Jessica we would get her an orange juice. At the train station, there was a orange juice machine that had just oranges in it. And you put in.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you do your credit card. It's $5 Canadian. which is about the exchange rate is, if I'm doing the math, about, a little over $4, right? But it takes like 6 oranges and it squeezes the oranges right for you. And I then bought one for Melanie, of course, and they both said it was the best orange juice they ever had. And I tasted it and it reminded me of like when you're in Florida and get fresh orange juice. It was so good.
That's so cool.
That was a funny thing. One of our last things.
Oh, I had a question for you.
Sure.
With the sushi, what kind of sushi was it? Was it, you said brown rice, but was it like nigiri? Like, was it like a thing of rice?
You could get nigiri. I got the rolls. So I got,
Okay.
yeah, I prefer the rolls generally. I like nigiri as well. The nigiri is like,
maki.
Yeah, I got the maki rolls, and I got a tuna, spicy tuna, and then the kappa, which is the cucumber, is my sort of standard. Well, here's a funny I'm glad you asked about this. Ellen doesn't like raw fish so much, but they had, I wish they did this more in the States. She got a maki that had chicken, cooked chicken, obviously, and it looked really nice. I didn't want to take any because she just had one roll, but it was really nice. And this wasn't a dedicated restaurant, but almost everything said gluten-free. They were really nice people too. It was nice. Then we had to get up the next day. We flew through Seattle and then to Chicago. And here's my last little tip. My daughters, they have, I think you buy them at Target. They're these little weighted animals and they come in sets. You get the mommy and the baby. It's like it's a new thing, Cam. So they both had a mommy and a baby.
Squishmallows?
No. This is a new, they had those. These are real big, heavy. There's a mama and a baby and they're like weighted and they both had the babies. We had a baby lion and a baby elephant. And if we had packed them, they would have been fine. But because they were stuffed with inorganic materials, they had to literally throw out. Melanie still gets very attached to things, and this was her favorite, the little elephant. So some tears were shed, but it was okay. I said, we'll get you a new one. They also confiscated, we had an ice pack in our carry-on, which wasn't smart because my wife was icing her foot. But again, my tip here is research what can go in and out of customs. And I remember I thought the animal would be fine, but the things they're stuffed with are like beans and stuff. And it's like, they just can't risk it anyways. But it was funny too, because so we flew through Seattle. Shout out to our good friend Denise in Seattle. I wish I had more time there. She's a member of our TCP Inner Circle. We love Denise. I thought of Denise because I was like on my app looking for places in the airport and Ghost Fish pops up. And I was like, we can't go to Ghost Fish. We have an hour layover or something. But they actually had a place, if you're in Seattle Airport, Cafe Flora, it was not in our terminal, so we couldn't go. But it gets, people said on the reviews that it's one of the safest, best airport restaurants. So next time I'm in Seattle, I'm going to try Cafe Flora. It was funny, in Vancouver, I bought something called Ocean Snack Kit of tuna, and it had the rice crackers, and it was clearly marked gluten-free, and my wife and I got those. And then in Seattle, we bought hard-boiled eggs because I didn't want to just eat jerky or bars all day. I was kind of on bar overload. So we got a high-protein snack, and the Ocean Snack tuna kit was actually a relatively good deal for an airport. It was in a cold section of one of the stores, like a Hudson News.
What comes in it?
It had the little rice crackers. There could have been a couple more crackers, and it was pre-mixed tuna salad. Okay. It was not the best tuna salad I ever had, but for travel, it was better than, I didn't just want to eat another bar that day. I didn't actually do the best bar packing that I've ever done. So that was it. And then we had to come home and just, again, shout out to Celiac Cruise, to Maureen, Connie. It just was such a great, magical time. Any closing thoughts, any questions, comments, anything?
That sounded like a great trip, for one. And I just keep thinking about what you said. And this is how all trips are in a way. You're in the moment and you're enjoying. And the beginning of the trip, it seems like it's going to be so long and you're in the middle of it and you're feeling it. Now you're comfortable. You're in your vacation mode. And then they kick you off the boat.
Exactly. It seems like it's a perfect way of putting it. It's like you kind of get your bearings and it's like you get into that rhythm and you're like, no. But I also will say this, because I've been on shorter cruises. I've been on 5-day, 3-day. The 7 days is really nice. And you feel like you got your fill of the cruise experience. And so I would highly recommend, I can't recommend the Celiac Cruise highly enough, or an Alaskan Cruise. And again, Connie was saying to us, it is always, if not their most popular, it's the one that sells out quickly. So I know the people listening now, it's 2026. Maybe you're listening to this in the future and it's later, but there'll be more celiac cruises. So now look at the 2027 sailings and they might all be sold out, but if not, get on one 2028. It really is a bucket list type of trip. And I feel so fortunate and lucky that I've been able to do a couple of these. Like you said, Cam, it's a really wonderful way to be with family and loved ones, just to share. We live in such a fast-paced world, and it's just so nice to slow down, take in all the beautiful nature and scenery, and just, couldn't have had a better time than we had. Really so much fun to share it with you. And yeah, I hope everyone listening who wants to go on one of these gets a chance. And if you do, reach out to us and tell us about your experience. And of course, there's that really exciting trip that Celiac Cruise has in 2028. If you haven't heard the show with Maureen, that was earlier in the summer. Maureen was on and she announced that in 2028, they're doing 100% gluten-free cruise of the British Isles. It's going to be just amazing. It's just going to be next level. Go ahead and listen to that. And I'm glad, Cam, it's fun in the summer that we just had a show on recently where you shared some of your travels. It's nice that we get a little travel, and it feels like a fun sort of sub-theme of our summer shows that we can share so much travel. But hope everybody has enjoyed listening to this as much as I have enjoyed sharing it, and we will see you next time.
Sounds good. See ya.
Thanks for listening to today's show. If you like the podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to the podcast. This will help other people find the show. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.